The 2025 PBA Tour season is here, and it's a pleasure for us to bring it to you on FS1, the PBA Delaware Classic, where last year we saw a dream get fulfilled. Will we see one get fulfilled today? It's a brand new season of the PBA Tour, and it starts now. This crowd is here to kick off our season. From Mid-County Lanes of Entertainment in Delaware, is Jakob Butturff back? He wants to prove that. Graham Fach believes that this could be his time. A.J. Johnson's had to survive in advance, and we got a couple of guys who were in the pre-tournament qualifier of this event earlier this week. Nick Pate and Michael Davidson now trying to win for the first time on TV as we welcome all of you to a new season of the PBA on Fox Sports. I'm John Fanta, joined by the Hall of Famer, 2025 USBC Hall of Fame inductee as well, Randy Peterson. Kimberly Pressler will be with us in a few moments. RP, congratulations.
Thanks, John.
On that distinct honor that's coming your way, another one. And what a fitting way for us to start our 2025 season in fast fashion.
Yeah, you're right, John. 2025 getting kicked off the right way, and I think today's star is the cheetah oil pattern that you're talking about. In my opinion, it's the most dynamic oil pattern that we use on the PBA Tour, and it's because the players have to play such an extreme outside angle, and with that, it lends itself to high scores, record-breaking scores this week, but it also brings into play the dreaded gutter ball.
Are we in for some more Delaware magic? We saw it last season in the Delaware Classic. A man who drove 16 hours across the country ended up winning the title, David Boog Kroll. He made it out of the pre-tournament qualifier, ended up winning this and going on to win the PBA playoffs.
Life-changing for Boog right there. You can see it on his face. Everything changed in his life, and it happened right here in this building.
And what's interesting about this, RP, is we've got two men who have also made it on the pre-tournament qualifier this week. And nobody embodies that more than Nick Pate, because he made it on the PTQ by a single pin.
Yeah, looking to parlay his riches today, trying to capture title #1 for that man and get out of the PTQs for the rest of the season.
How about the performance of Michael Davidson, though, this week, making some history?
Yeah, there's the guy we were talking about when I mentioned breaking records. Michael Davidson did just that here in this building, also looking for his first ever career title.
Yes, folks, a man who made it on the pre-tournament qualifier, Michael Davidson, set the 12-game PBA scoring record of 3,086 during rounds 1 and 2 of qualifying, surpassing the great Mike Alby's 3,083 set in 1996.
Mike beating Mike.
That leads us to our bracket. You think about this with A.J. Johnson, because he was the 24th seed. He ends up meeting Davidson in the quarters. Davidson goes from a guy who could have had to just win one game, Randy, to having the ball first.
If A.J. Johnson doesn't knock off Michael Davidson, guess who makes the telecast? Young Ryan Barnes. That's right, the son of Chris Barnes. But because Michael was the highest seed coming in, he makes the show by virtue of being that #1 qualifier.
And so as a result, we'll see Jakob Butturff last on this show, trying to prove he's back. But Michael Davidson and A.J. Johnson, they've got a bit of a past, having met in college. This rematch should be a lot of fun, some redemption on the line. Kimberly Pressler is with them both.
Thanks, guys. So, Michael, huge week for you. You came out of the PTQ. You were the #1 qualifier, and you broke a record here. So why so much success this early in the 2025 season?
Well, historically here in this building, my ball has always rolled really, really good here. It's going through the pins the right way, and then it sees the mid lane the proper way. So my swing was nice and loose, and my ball was striking.
Well, the one time you were not successful this week was when you went up in the round of 8 against this guy right here. So what's the plan to get a little redemption against him?
I like my look on fresh. I got lost a little bit. Games 6, 7, and 8, or 5, 6, 7. So we're on fresh tonight, so I like my chances.
All right, good luck to you. AJ, as you heard him right there, he seems pretty confident, and he has had a really great week. What's the plan to stop him? Because you stopped him in 7. How do you do it in 1?
Yeah, Michael had an incredible week. You don't set the 12-game scoring record without bowling really well. So, but all I needed was a chance, and we put together a game plan. And, once I see my ball do the right thing, I like to strike too.
Well, I saw you out there taking a few practice shots. How does it look out there for you?
Yeah, it looks pretty good. You know, the lanes are they're a little bit different. You know, with that's just more shots, the lights and everything. So we'll just have to just make 10 really great shots and hope that those 10 are better than the other guy.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
As we get to our stepladder, AJ versus Michael Davidson, Graham Fach awaiting the winner of match number 1, then Nick Pate, and then Jakob Butturff. Randy, briefly explain what these two guys, when we say pre-tournament qualifiers, what they're going through just to get to the next step.
Well, you talk about a grind. I mean, these guys have to make it through the PTQ, just the bowl to tournament proper. And I went through that for several years in the beginning of my career out here on the PBA Tour. And it's a tough task because if you don't make it out of the PTQ, your week is done.
29-year-old Michael Davidson. Even the two, when we asked him to describe his game, he said, I want to bring the power.
Well, he certainly has that. Dude, it's like the worst ever. Like when I hit top.
And cleans that up. On the other side, A.J. Johnson, 32 years of age, 11th year professionally. He and his girlfriend, Allie, have a baby boy, Brantley, born last March. Still looking for his first win in the States. He said, my biggest thing this year, not be too hard on myself.
Yeah, nice start for AJ. And the last couple of years have been nice for him, but still looking for that first singles title on U.S. soil. And this is what I love about Cheetah, the visual, the extreme outside part of the lane. And for folks maybe tuning in for the first time to professional bowling, it gets a little scary watching that, but the pros are conditioned to play all over the lane.
An amazing week as we take a look at AJ's arsenal. So 13 300s bowled this week at Delaware, the 10th. 13 300s. Talking with PBA Commissioner Tom Clark, he said this is the first time in a while that we removed the Cheetah from the World Series of Bowling and instead opening up this season with the 35-foot pattern.
AJ starting with urethane and that tank rampage to start here in game 1.
Second place finish for him last year in Illinois. Fell just short to Marshall Kent. We know what ended up happening with Marshall. An outstanding season for Mr. Kent. As we go back to Davidson, these two have a past. With Michael Davidson bowling collegiately for Calumet College in St. Joseph, Indiana. AJ bowling at McKendree. They met a series of times in college.
Lethal Venom for Michael, and that is reactive. And if you want to tell the difference, John, between reactive and urethane, just watch the down lane motion. It's going to be much sharper with reactive resin than it will be with urethane.
One more look. Well, when we talked with Michael before the show, he told us he felt good about meeting AJ in just a singular game because he lost a 3-1 lead to him in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, he said he lost his ball reaction as the match went on, and more games played, more balls going down the lane, the lane's transition. He likes his chances better early when the oil's fresher.
He said today was about redemption. And a strike.
And both of these players look like if they weren't bowling on the Pro Tour, they'd be playing football. I mean, these guys are two studs, gym rats. Second arrow out to about the fourth board. Perfectly done for Michael Davidson. Strike up in the third.
Back to Johnson, who 10 years ago earned the #1 seed for the USBC Masters Finals as a senior at McKendree University. Trying to break through today. That's A.J. Johnson.
Had a nice year last year, 16th on the point list, 80 top 20s, or excuse me, 8 top 20s, 3 top 10s. But again, that lone win coming all the way from Helsingborg, Sweden. Actually had the pleasure of being at that Lucky Larson Storm Masters last year. Called the action, watched Jesper Svensson win that event.
6-time runner-up on tour before winning that first career title. So he's been right there. In the States, he's been right there. When he gets cooking, the 10 just wouldn't take the phone call. But when he gets cooking, you talk to the other competitors on tour. They say, man, you don't want A.J. Johnson to get hot. One more look.
Well, I think that holds true for a lot of players on this tour. I mean, the last thing you want is your opponent to get comfortable at any point, right? And especially early here in match one. But AJ has the experience here in match #1 going up head-to-head against Michael Davidson in terms of television experience.
As we take a look at today's oil pattern, the PBA Cheetah 35.
And no secret where you have to play on this pattern. It's the outside part of the lane, and that's where the friction is. But if you get too steep through the front part of the lane, you run the risk of the ball going into the gutter.
The high risk, high reward of it.
Yep. How many 300s this week? 13?
13 of them. But a whole lot more gutters along with that. That one, well, for Davidson, fortunate to just leave one.
And for me, it's just not enough angle through the front part of the lane early on for Michael Davidson as he creeps up high once again. Fortunate to kick the 4 out, just leaving the 9-pin. Back-to-back 9s on the right lane for Davidson. This guy's muscles have muscles.
You sound jealous.
Let me tell you something, those days are gone for this man.
Yeah. They never arrived here.
I get tired driving past a gym, let alone going in one.
All right, look through our scoreboard here thus far. Davidson and Johnson, familiar foes. They met in the quarters. Davidson was in control, and he just couldn't cap it. If he had won that matchup, he'd be the last man that we'd see on this show.
There you go, great shot there. Notice a little bit more angle on that left lane and that shot for Michael Davidson.
That was right on point for Michael Davidson. You see how AJ got here. 24 seed.
How about that? Beating Chris Fach, sweeping him 4-0.
That was the one shutout.
He won some money on that bet. Anderson takes him to 7. Yeah.
Boom.
And look at the numbers here, folks. Look how much straighter that is. That's because of the urethane bowling ball. Much straighter than his opponent, Davidson.
Talk to us about dictating things and how he transitioned to urethane as matchups went on. He won the first game in all 3 of his matches. He said, with urethane, I found a really good look with that. I could stay in it longer because of not having as much traffic here today. Sharp start for AJ, trying to keep it rolling. 3 on the last 4 for Johnson.
Yeah, finally got the 10-pin out on that left lane, John.
AJ setting the tone to 20-25 and trying to get his first win stateside of his career. But Michael Davidson has something to say about that. Don't call him an underdog, this matchup. Just getting underway. FS1 is sponsored by Go Bowling. For friends and family fun, log on to GoBowling.com to find the center near you. Awesome crowd on hand and tons of great signs. It's wonderful to have PBA Tour action back on Fox Sports another season. Randy Peterson, you ever have a fantasy football team? Well, the new PBA Elite League Battle of the Brands pits bowling ball manufacturers against each other in a season-long competition. Really fun. Each brand has a full roster of staff players, but can choose only 5 to represent them prior to each singles event. So it's like starting a fantasy team. Who you start, who you sit. Cumulative PBA points earned from each team's 5 designated players will be the total score for each brand event to event, determining the overall standings. It's like fantasy bowling all season long until the live Baker Competition Championship in April.
Hey, John, I'm sorry, my mic was killed when you asked me that question. No, I've never done fantasy football, believe it or not. As much as I love the NFL, I've never done it.
But that's really tricky for those managers to try to figure out who they're going to start.
Yeah, pretty cool. It's pretty fun.
Davidson and Johnson. Michael Davidson, 29 years of age. He told us the story earlier about his dad, Doug, how grateful he is to Doug for getting him involved in this sport in the first place, all the sacrifices Pop's made for him to get to this point.
Finally, there we go. Just like we talked about in our last segment, he's creating a little bit more angle on that shot, and it works perfectly. And now the deficit just 1. Big man, great balance, great hand at the bottom, and look at the rotation and revolutions.
Still works for his dad's company, Bowler Store in Versailles, Ohio, a national online supplier of bowling equipment. Davidson's heating up.
Rack shredder. You know, I thought it was interesting when we talked with him earlier that he was not aware of the record he broke until the next day.
Yeah, that's wild. Had no idea that he had broken Mike Alby's pinfall record. Now let's talk about A.J. Johnson's arsenal again.
Yeah, he's using that tank rampage, and it's not typical urethane. It's what Motive calls their microcell polymer. It's not reactive, not traditional urethane, but reacts very similar to urethane.
It's working.
Man, that was perfect. Look at the position at the arrows.
As we take you to our Bowl TV highlights, A.J. Johnson coming back from behind against Michael Davidson on Thursday night. He was down 3-1, but then A.J. put it together. Davidson had the record-breaking qualifying performance. That's how he's in this stepladder. But for Johnson to come back from 3-1 down, winning the last 3 games, 247 to 232 in Game 7, remarkable comeback for A.J.
It really is. I mean, to try to win the last 3 and win the best of 7 in that fashion, not the easiest thing to do. That one jerked early.
What happened?
Looking at the numbers, it looked like he missed left. Actually, that was right at the break point, but it jerked early. You see it come off the spot real quick?
That reaction says it all.
Typically when you see that, the speed's a touch softer, trying to get a number for you.
80% the PBA Tour on the 3-6-10, and AJ has no problem there. So after 3 straight strikes, Davidson with a slight lead. See that max change. Michael Davidson, his 1 television appearance, 2021 PBA Players Championship, but that was in front of no fans. This is a whole different ball game for him.
Yeah, but right now he should have his feet underneath him. He's 7 frames into here in Game 1, and he's working on a 3-bagger. There you go.
Take it forward.
There you go. And again, you see the break point. He's getting it out to that spot. And now it's 4-bagger, and he's up by 12, heading into the foundation frame, the 9th frame.
said redemption is coming today. He was really confident when we talked with him.
These guys have history, you know, Calumet and McKendry, and these guys have seen a lot of each other. Now, that's going back some years, but you never forget.
And he had a 300 on this pattern in the World Series of Ball.
That one held up nicely. Look how it held pocket. Check your numbers here at the break point. Remember, the last shot on the right lane was a couple of boards right of that. This one sets up perfect.
Randy, they're not going as far right as they used to.
Yeah, I mean, typically on Cheetah, you can get it to the one board and get it all the way back, but apparently they don't need to get it that far to the right to get the ball to the pocket.
Johnson really needs one. Gets it.
Question is, if they do get one to that spot, what is it going to do? Is it going to stay on the lane? Is it going in? Is it going to get to the pocket?
Does your gut say anything?
I haven't seen one out there. I didn't see it in practice. So right now, maybe in their minds, they're thinking that the two board is as far right as they want to go. You know, maybe that's their gutter.
So we hit the 10th here, and you see those maxes.
Well, right now, AJ's thinking about one thing and one thing only, striking out and putting pressure on Davidson to give him something to think about in the 10th frame. His high score right now, 237. Davidson could go 9 spare strike and beat him by 1 if AJ were to strike out.
Needs it. Needs it. Johnson converts.
Yeah, now that one pushed.
3.6. It did.
Can I please take my second re-rack?
That rev rate approaching almost 500. Hard to win out here, hard to beat anybody if you don't have the high rev rate. That's why we see so much success with the two-handers, but no two-handers on tonight's telecast.
No, all one-handers. We'll have a two-handed versus one-handed challenge in our All-Star weekend this year. That'll be a lot of fun.
I talked to some of my older buddies, some PBA champions, Mike Wolf and Dino Castillo, early prior to the telecast, and asked them, why no two-handers? I'll give you the answer to that right after this shot.
High leverage for Johnson. AJ has done it again.
Beauty.
He's applying the pressure.
Yeah, and this next shot, the fill shot's very important to fill all 10. The answer to the question was because of angle. They felt it was because of the angle. Players that far to the right have all that angle to get the ball to the pocket and strike, as opposed to playing 4th or 5th arrow when you don't have the big rev rate to get that 10 pin out or that 7 pin out if you're a left-hander.
If Johnson strikes, Davidson would need 9 spare strike to beat that 237. This is huge.
Came up and out of it and paid for it. Davidson just needs a mark and good count.
Attack you the entire time.
Michael Davidson.
Oh.
Making history earlier this week. A 12-game PBA scoring record in the history of this tour. A man who has no titles on tour. 7th year pro. Mark here. He's moving on.
Ooh, that's good.
Messenger, and there's the 10.
All he has to do is cover it. Just a pinch faster with that shot there, but just the 10 pin. Got to pay attention. Just cover the 10. He's done it a million times.
And does.
Good job. Now,
Michael Davidson.
now, he needs how many? There's Dad Doug. He needs 5. Playing the extreme outside part of the lane, you take the spare ball, move to the center, and chuck it right at the head pin? I think yes.
Yes. I vote yes with you.
Look.
You're only the Hall of Famer here.
Exactly what he did.
Smart strategy. Michael Davidson gets redemption and is moving on.
Yeah, it's the only way to play that. You can't risk the ball going into the gutter.
So we have 4 bowlers left, RP. 2 of them came out of the pre-tournament qualifier.
And 2 of them are southpaws.
Oh boy, just getting started. And how about this? We're welcoming in the all-time majors champion and a legend. Jason Belmonte will join our broadcast booth next. Next weekend, it's our first major of the season, the U.S. Open, presented by Go Bowling from Royal Pin Woodland in Indianapolis. Coverage begins Saturday on FS1 and Sunday on Fox, both days at 4 p.m. Eastern. Last year, one of the greatest stepladders in PBA history, Kyle Troop, the 3rd seed, defeated E.J. Tackett, Jason Belmonte to reach a championship match against Anthony Simonson. And here's a look at our big-time schedule for 2025. Over 60 hours of coverage. We'll have 8 broadcasts on the Fox network, including all 5 majors. We've got the PBA Elite League Battle of the Brands, World Series of Bowling, PBA All-Star Weekend, which will feature a 2-hander versus 1-hander challenge, and the PBA playoffs that we saw Boog Kroll win after winning in Delaware earlier in our season. He ended up being the playoffs champ. And after that, speaking of 2-handers, it is a pleasure to welcome in the major champion king, 31-time PBA Tour champion, 15 major championships. Jason Belmonte is with us now for a couple of segments in our broadcast. Belmo, thank you for joining us. How are you?
Yeah, lads, thanks for the invitation. Very excited to be back in the United States on the PBA Tour, and honestly, what better place to kick it off than here in Delaware. The people here are incredible. We've loved our time here, and now we're down to the final few guys left. Looking forward to see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. We got a couple of pre-tournament qualifiers. We have a couple of lefties here, but overall, what do you make of the state of our wonderful sport?
Yeah, listen, I think what we're seeing tonight as well is the way I feel out here anyway is the vibe is incredibly calm. It's positive, and that's usually a good sign when you're walking through the players' settee and you're walking through the paddock. There's a lot of really positive talk, not just for their own personal bowlers, but just for the game itself. So, like I said, great place to start. Everyone's feeling good. Looking forward to watching.
Randy, what about the energy around bowling right now?
Well, it's early in the season, and I think anytime you kick off a new year, a new season, everybody's going to be jacked and hyped. That mental beatdown, the stuff that goes with week in, week out of travel and grinding and trying to get there, it hasn't set in yet. And so everybody's fresh. They're coming off the holidays. Everybody's in good spirits, and everybody's real excited to kick off 2025.
Well,
I'm excited to be sitting next to this guy and knowing that we're going to chat for a couple of games. So that's pretty special.
I am surrounded by greatness here with these 2 men, Hall of Fame material to the left of me. Let's talk about 2024, because we continue to watch the greatness of E.J. Tackett, and that is what led him to Player of the Year honors, the Chris Schenkel PBA Player of the Year.
Yeah, listen, I mean, as a player that gets to watch it as close as you can possibly get to watch it, it's really inspiring and motivating to see somebody not just perform the way that he has for a single season, but, you know, I've said it before, he's been my biggest rival on tour for the last 6-7 years, and the last few years he's really proven to be our #1 player.
RP, how about the rest of these honorees?
Yeah, I mean, congrats to all of the award winners. Nate Purchase winning the Harry Golden PBA Rookie of the Year award, and then Richie Teese. I mean, I think this just speaks volumes of what we already know about Richie, the Steve Nagy Sportsmanship Award winner. There's Kyle Troop winning that prestigious Tony Reyes Community Service Award, and then obviously E.J. Tack. But I have a question for Jason about E.J. And obviously we know how great and how dominant he's been over the last couple of years, because most of the time we just get to see him on television. But Jason, you see every facet that goes on throughout the week. I mean, his dominance in qualifying, when he gets to match play. Talk to us a little bit about what you see during those parts of the tournaments that other folks just don't see.
Yeah, I think he's become incredibly brilliant at repetition. And so when EJ sees the lane and he sees his ball motion the way that he likes to see it, he repeats so well that it's not just a 220, 230, or 240 game. It's 260, 270, 280. And he's able to compile games like that more frequently in the last couple of years than he has his entire career. So, like I always say, when I see EJ start with the front 3 or 4, in my head, I'm expecting a very big game from him because I know he's going to throw it great for the entire game.
From one great pressing question from Randy Peterson to our pressing questions with Kimberly Presler. They're presented by Go Bowling. What are our bowlers looking forward to and hoping for the most in 2025? Here's what they had to say.
AJ, we're in 2025. What are your expectations for the 2025 season?
That's tough. I don't really have a lot of, expectations other than just to be a contender every week.
Try to be better than I was last season. I think it's just always about improving and, trying to be the best Stu I can be.
I know last year was kind of a breakout year, winning 2 times. But to say, I want to do that again, would be amazing. But the reality of it, it's so hard to win out here on the tour.
No predictions, just trying to have some fun, bowl well, make as many good shots, and just kind of see whatever the outcome is, not try and focus too much on the results.
Hopefully a lot of strikes. I hope that the game's good enough and it continues. So maybe a couple shows, maybe a title.
Just opportunity to learn, opportunity to grow, opportunity to be better.
Kyle, what are your predictions for the 2025 season for yourself?
I've been working hard a lot in the off season, and we've pretty much got one prediction or one goal, player of the year, coming back from a spot. Sorry, EJ.
That is awesome from Kyle Troop. Coming up next, Graham Fach told us he believes the best year of his career starts right now. Fach against Davidson next. County Lanes and Entertainment. We are in Delaware for the PBA Tour Delaware Classic. Graham Fach is seeking his second PBA Tour title, and now he meets Michael Davidson with Nick Pate, a fellow PTQ pre-tournament qualifier with Davidson, and then Jakob Butturff, our last man, as we go back to February 21st, 2016, PBA Players Championship in Columbus. The number 2 seed Graham Fach beating number 1 seed Ryan Simonelli. Graham became the first Canadian to win a PBA Tour title, history for the North, and in 2016, the PBA Players Championship was re-elevated to major status. Graham getting covered in that shaving cream. He's now with Kimberly Presler.
Thanks, guys. So, Graham, we just watched you win in 2016. What a big day that was for you, because it was technically your first ever PBA event. It was your first win ever, and it was a major. So when you watch that, what comes to mind?
It's definitely a bright spot in my career just to see me, but I was such a kid at that point. It kind of set me back a little bit just because I did kind of have a little bit of imposter syndrome. I felt like I was bowling against the pros and I was just kind of pretending to be a pro. But throughout the years, I believed in myself with the support of all my friends and family, and to where I am now, I'm glad to say that's behind me.
Good luck to you today.
Thank you.
Fach and Davidson. Randy, what do you look at with Graham?
Well, I think he's really come a long way in the last couple of years, and one of the things I wanted to bring up to Jason. Jason, I noticed this a couple of years ago at the League Series, and it looked to me like he had done some renovations with his physical game. The one thing that stood out to me was it looked like he had totally increased his rev rate.
As you can see with that shot there, 423 RPM. I don't know what he was a few years ago, but I definitely think most of the players, when they can, are looking to work on increasing that power to at least help them get that extra hit per game. I think what was interesting was hearing him calling himself an imposter.
Yeah.
I don't think very many players out here would have agreed with that comment. I think from the get-go, we saw how great he was, but it's great to know that he's finally starting to believe in himself.
Michael Davidson getting past H.A. Johnson and a messenger. The clean wipe presented by Dude Wipes.
I'll tell you what, I have a subscription to Dude Wipes. I never leave home without them. It's like my own personal portable bidet.
Davidson with a strike. Back-to-back jacks for the 29-year-old. What do you like about Michael Davidson?
Yeah. What do you see there besides the power, the brute strength of this guy, Jason? What do you like?
Yeah, I mean, Michael's always had a great ball roll. I've always loved the way his ball has shaped off the end of the pattern, but on the cheetah oil pattern this week, it was just something I'd never seen from him before. And as you can see in those first two shots and the last game, when he gets it right, the ball goes through the pins in a way that just absolutely crushes the pins.
What's he using?
Fach opens well. Yeah, he talked about that imposter idea, but Jason, the one thing that we took away from talking to him earlier today was he said, I've become more of a student, more of a learner. I track everything now with my game, and he just feels like his game's in the best place it's ever been because of that mentality.
Yeah, and I think every player has that one lock that needs unlocking for them to push through a barrier to unlock their potential. And for him, it was a learning, something to do with knowledge about his game, his equipment, the lens, whatever it might be. But he's clearly figured it out.
I need to have the name of that baseball right now.
And Fach with a three-bagger.
And Graham Fach starting with that urethane ball. Black Pearl. And so far, so good. Black Pearl urethane on both lanes for Graham Fach.
And a triple for Fach. Now back to Davidson. We saw 13 300s here this week in Delaware.
Yeah, well, as you can just see from that shot from Michael, this building, this oil pattern, you get a consistent ball motion down lane like that, the pins have been really kind. The biggest thing that I noticed was it was very easy to see guys shoot 300, and equally as easy, if you weren't quite right, you could bowl 205, never missing the pocket. And so Michael obviously figured it out all day, averaging 2 billion, I think it was, for the week. And he's continued that right now.
A phenomenal week for Davidson. Boom. Michael Davidson, by the way, 246.28 on the qualifying average. And again, set the 12-game PBA scoring record of 3,086.
Yeah, that's impressive. And I just mentioned to Randy, that's why that ball was a little inside of target. Yeah. With that speed and the ball roll that he has, it didn't cut loose on him on the back end of the lane. So he has a little hold. He can hit that 1-2 board as well. It'll bounce off it. And like I said, the way his ball's going through the pins, carry is not an issue for him.
Fach, he isn't blinking.
Jason, we talk about this pattern, the fact that you play the extreme outside part of the lane. What we haven't talked about is that this is the heaviest volume of oil used on the PBA Tour on any pattern. What do you make of that, and how does that help or maybe hinder other players?
Yeah, I mean, I think this week in particular, because of the surface is a little older, there's a lot of built-in friction. That extra few mils of oil on the lane that we're starting to see has helped, I think, help the players stay in a comfort zone of the lane a little longer than they might have normally had to have been.
Another for Fach, who said, in all of my matchups this week, I was in the driver's seat. I took that opening game. He goes, I gotta be in the driver's seat. But the thing is, Davidson's gone punch for punch with him thus far.
Beautiful shot here by Graham Fach. 5 in a row. And he is just absolutely annihilating the 1-2. Look at that, 10 back. No need for a sweep on that last shot, Jason.
Yeah, it's about as perfect as you're going to throw it.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Whoa.
All right, here you go. You see the break point there at 0.5. That's a half an inch from going in.
Yeah, listen, I can tell you right now, when the ball got to the arrows, there was a part of him where his heart rate jumped through the roof, and he was hoping for just anything. So I think a 9 off of that. It's the first time we've seen him really fall off his shot and miss it at the bottom. 9 spare. Could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
He'll take it.
Gives us a chance to tell you registration for the 2025 PBA LBC National Championships is now open to bowlers of all skill levels. The PBA LBC National Championships is returning to the Chicago area and includes a division for everyone. You can compete in singles as well as optional doubles and team events, even combine your scores with the pros. Enter today at PBA.com.
See, I'm really interested to see how Michael is going to play the left and right lanes. I feel like the left lane for him is way, way more controlled. He has a little bit more consistent ball motion at the end of the pattern. Just like that. The frames before on the right lane, he could ring 10, he messenger 10, and so I think he's trying to really get it to the edge to bounce off it.
We'll see how Davidson goes about his business because Fach has been a machine. Who will be moving on to meet Nick Pate? Delaware Classic rolls along. Welcome back to Mid-County Lanes and Entertainment for the 2025 PBA Delaware Classic. There are Mark and John Cronin, owners of John's Crazy Socks, the official athletic socks of the PBA. We love you, Mark and John. Inspired by John's love for Crazy Socks, the Cronin started the company with a mission of spreading happiness.
I went to the website. Man, there's a lot of great socks on that website.
It is tremendous. John Fanta, Jason Belmonte, Randy Peterson with you as Graham Fach leads by 11. Fach has been perfect thus far. Dealing with a little bit of a bleedy finger that he was dealing with during the break.
Yeah, it's just a flesh wound. Spit on it and keep throwing strikes. Jason, what do you make of that last shot? There was a lot more shape to that one than the previous shot on that right lane.
I mean, he's looking really, really good, but I think we all expected the lefty to come out on the fresh, having no transition yet. If they had a look with the urethane ball, we're going to see a lot of strikes for them. Graham, I tell you, he's been looking like this for a long time. I'm still flabbergasted at the idea of him feeling like he was an imposter.
Oh, he blinks. Big difference there. 4-7.
So a little bit farther outside, a little bit more hook.
Yeah, it kind of looked like he just didn't have the same shape through the front part of the lane. It looked like it got a little more up the lane than he probably would have wanted. He needed to see just a tiny bit more shape to the front, but again, he probably was thinking halfway down the lane, leave me something to spare. We'll see how it goes.
He does clean it up after 6 straight strikes.
And you saw that spare percentage, and all of our numbers are given it to us by our great friends at Lane Talk. For more information, visit lanetalk.com and download the free app.
Now, Jason, back to that right lane for Davidson. What's interesting is he will finish on what's been the stronger for him, the left. He has struck every time on the left but once between these two matchups.
This is a big frame for me.
And on that big frame, he comes through.
I mean, Randy and I were talking about it in the break. I mean, we both feel like Michael needs to create a little bit more shape to the pocket.
Tomorrow on Fox, historic rivals collide with a trip to Super Bowl 59 on the line. It's rookie sensation and Randy Peterson favorite Jaden Daniels leads Washington against Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, and the Eagles. Pre-game coverage starts at 1 p.m. Eastern with kickoff at 3 only on Fox.
Thanks for that. And there's a couple of Eagle fans here. Jason, go ahead and finish your thoughts on that last shot.
Yeah, I think he just needs to create a little bit more angle on the right lane to get it to go through the pins a little better. Or I think the left lane, not that he wants to throw it that far left, but I think the left lane is a little bit more blended for him. Still got to get it further right than 5.9 at the break point. If he were to not advance, that's the shot he's going to think about, wishing he could have back.
Definitely not near enough shape on that shot. Too much up the lane. And even though there's an extremely heavy volume of oil, not enough to hold that ball in line.
Yeah, not enough length in the pattern, especially on his more favored left lane, where I believe that's the first time he's missed tonight. Or
second time he's not struck on the left lane.
First in this matchup, but that's big because he had done his job on the right.
Exactly. Those are the ones where when you capitalize on the lane where you think maybe it's not as good, then you get on your better lane, you've got to make sure that that next shot is crisp.
No. 7. And it was almost 7-10.
Yeah, that was almost dude wipe time, because if that 10 pin stood up, that would have been crappy. Almost pocket 7-10. Last thing you want to see, especially when you have a little bit of a lead heading down to the end of this game. We'll give him a 9 spare here, and his possibility of shooting 267 still alive.
It was interesting, Randy, how much Graham focused on how much he's asking different centers wherever he's at of the specific types of oils they're using.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing, Jason. We talked about some of the physical changes he's made, but he's really become quite the student of the game. And like John just mentioned, everywhere he goes, he wants to know a lot more than just what the length of the oil pattern is. He wants to know what kind of oil, how many volumes, what's the shape, and he does this everywhere he goes.
Oh, 7 again for Fach.
And look what that does to the max score, guys.
Yeah, there's one person in the building that's very happy to see this ball motion for Graham on both lanes, and that's his opponent right now.
Yeah.
When you're watching your opponent use urethane and you start to see that carry, that shape, just change enough where it's no longer going through the pins consistently well, that's when you start to think, right, if I can just string a few strikes here, you know, maybe my opponent's going to tap once or twice down the back stretch.
So 6 straight strikes for Fach, and then 3 straight frames of spares. And now take a look at the max.
Well, no matter what, Davidson cannot be shut out. If he strikes out, he'll force Graham Fach to do the same.
This feels huge, even though his last time on the left lane didn't go the way he wanted it to, but that's been his stronger, and that's where he will finish.
Yeah, I'm predicting these next 2 shots are going to be very, very good for Michael.
Almost prediction comes true.
Yeah, just better speed control, better hand position. Still got it pretty close to that 1-2 board where he was looking down lane. Needs to get it that far right on the right lane. Left lane, he has that little bit more room, but he just can't try to push it that far left. If he gets it close to the 1, 2, 3, even 4 board, he's going to be in for a chance for a strike. I think this is going to be another good one off his hand.
29 years of age. Married in September 2024. First TV appearance in 4 years. Had to come through the pre-tournament qualifier.
I think that shocked him. That shocked me. I think it shocked half the crowd.
6.8.
Yeah, I think that's hit a little rock down the lane there.
He gets this up the lane and it holds.
Yeah, and like we said before, that is his more favored lane. I think that's just one of those things about our game where a little bit of topography, a little bit of oil here or there, if you catch it in the right spot, it can still end up where you want it. That's not to say that this next one isn't dead perfect, and we could see a stone 8 pin or a stone 9 pin. So it all ebbs and flows.
That was further left of the previous one. And
in again, no shape on that lane. The last 3 shots.
Yeah, really surprising, honestly. I felt like as a player, and Randy, you would have felt this, when you get away with one when you miss left, and
you
know
ace the next one.
It feels
you absolutely ace the
so
next
much
one.
more relaxed because you know you've got that little extra room. But again, it's just a little tight. Just couldn't let it go, and You know, now with that open frame 7 count, losing the count, he's given Graham a lot more breathing space to push through to the next round.
Winner gets Nick Pate.
Just a mark and good count. 17 to Phil for the win.
We asked him flat out, do you believe your best bowling's still in front of you? He said, it better be. I only have one title. Bob!
That's pretty good.
Big time!
You know, and that's something that we saw out of him in the PBA League. Those clutch moments,
Yeah.
the ones where to seal the deal, move on. He threw a lot of great
Yes, he
shots
did.
in Portland and was, I think, probably one of the main reasons for the team to have so much success there with him in it.
He set a couple of shots from Davidson in that 7th. And then again in the 10th. He'd like to have back Graham Fach. Graham Fach is one of 3 left standing for the Delaware Classic crown.
Yeah, I think, you know, John, like you said, those 1 or 2 shots from Davidson are going to definitely haunt him tonight. And that's the part of the game that I think a lot of the fans forget, even when the scoring pace is really high. It's 10 frames. If you throw 1 or 2 bad shots in a game, that's 10 or 20% of your game that you can't get back. So I think that's another Black Pearl urethane with a little bit more surface, which is allowing him to get in a little more.
Yeah, it certainly looked like it had some more surface to it.
You give a lot of credit to Michael Davidson for the week that he had, because he had to get through the pre-tournament qualifier. These men go through so much. And another one who had to go through the PTQ is Nick Pate. He meets Graham Fach next. The PBA is proud to have Bowlers to Veterans Link as the official charity of the PBA Tour. In today's BVL Salute to Veterans, we welcome retired Navy Rating Operations Specialist Gene Hall, who served for 22 years. Thank you for your service, Gene. To donate, go to bvl.org. As welcoming back the 2025 PBA Delaware Classic. Here's where we stand. Graham Fach lasting Michael Davidson. So it's the 2 versus the 3 to see who beats, or who will meet the #1 seed Jakob Butturff. Nick Pate versus Graham Fach, and Nick Pate, Randy Peterson, also getting through the pre-tournament qualifier, feels great about where he's at. And now can he deliver? He made it through the PTQ by just a single pin.
All right, so now, this is like what I think of when I think of cheetah, especially when you're using reactive. You get in and you wheel it towards the gutter. And a lot of folks said, well, you couldn't really do that this week. You kind of had to stay in this certain zone. Otherwise, it wouldn't push to that part of the lane. This opening shot by Nick Pate, what do you see, Jason?
Yeah, I think he's playing that part of the lane that you said it still allows for that push to get to the right.
Fach finding some momentum, but not the way he wants to start on that right side with 4 and 7.
Yeah, look, for me, it's going to be when Graham changes from urethane to reactive. Does he have enough time in the game to continue on and finish the game out with reactive, or does Nick get off to a hot start and force Graham to make that move earlier because he knows he can't afford the one that checks a bit early or the ring 7 or whatever it is? So I think if Nick puts the pressure on, we're going to see a change from Graham sooner than we would normally see from him.
And Jason, why is it that so many times we see the urethane start off nice and then all of a sudden it just does not work? Is that because of the amount of surface that's on the bowling ball?
Yeah, and the dynamics of the bowling ball. I mean, they're not designed to create a lot of down lane shape. All of the shape that it's trying to create is earlier. So as you put surface on that bowling ball, just as we're seeing now from Graham. It's removing that oil early, and it's placing it further down lane, and the ball itself just isn't as dynamic.
And the earlier the ball reads the oil pattern, the less down lane reaction there'll be.
And the further in you have to move. So as you're creeping further and further to the inside part of the lane, well, with less down lane, you're going to create less angle of entry.
To take a look at Nick Pate's arsenal.
It looks like Nick's going with vaporize, which is what he just did to the pocket there.
Yeah, I think he's playing a really, really good part of the lane for Nick. I think he's got his hand in the right position. He's not too far left, but he's also got a little shape. He's got a little push there, a little hold. And as you can see, if he gets near that gutter, that reactive bowling ball really wants to come off of it.
As much as we saw 13 300s this past week, we also saw a lot of gutter balls. And Nick Pate told us, I had 4 or 5 of them myself. He said, nothing on this TV show. I'm going to make sure of it. But he's put together a heck of a week.
John watching now, straight to the gutter.
Oh, wow. Way to go, John.
If that happens, I'll head to the parking lot.
All right, you're safe. You're safe, John.
Better than safe.
You're
No.
safe. Cured it.
But
No.
much easier to throw it in when you're creating that much angle through the front.
Yeah, and I think
than
also...
when you're using urethane going up the gut.
Yeah, and I think he's also going to have that break point a little bit more room as well because of the angle through the front. And if there is a little hold there, he doesn't necessarily have to get it to 1-2. He can get it to that 4-5.
Right.
6 might still be pushing it, but as he creeps further and further left, 6, 7 start to come into play.
How did you try to attack this pattern?
I definitely tried to do exactly what Nick was doing right there, and I think my rev rate actually was my hindrance for me. I think it was over-checking in that spot. I couldn't find the hold like Nick or Michael had seen.
On this right side, Graham Fach struggling.
All right, so through 3, after he shoots this spare, does he change balls, Jason? Does he go to reactive?
It's got to be playing in his head. Even on that second frame left lane shot, the ball didn't look as great as it did in the first 7 shots of the first game. So I'm sure there's a thought or two in his head about, I need to create more shape. Maybe it's another urethane with either more surface on it. Maybe it's a reactive ball. I didn't get to see a lot of his lane play moves through the week, so I don't know. I think it's now or never.
February 16th, drivers, start your engines. The Great American Race returns. The Daytona 500 launches the 2025 NASCAR season, only on Fox. It's just, I can't tell you how many times, guys, and Randy, we talk about this all the time, of when you make the move, how many times we see it maybe 1 frame too late. This is where you're judging, when do I push the button?
It's a question we ask ourselves after every loss.
That time he strikes.
And that's why it's so difficult to win out here in this format. You know, in a one-game match, there's no time.
Tell me what it's like when you are in a TV match, from your perspective, how quickly it is.
Yeah, you have to try to slow it down. You have to try to slow time down a little bit because it goes by very fast. And when the moment is coming quickly at you, sometimes those decisions aren't made fast enough because the moment is quick.
Nick Pate, a pair of top 20 finishes last year, and he strikes here. He is hot. A 4-bagger.
And no player on today's telecast has created this much angle.
No, but it was going to come. At some point, the boys were going to have to get just that little bit further left. And, you know, this right now, this is where AJ Johnson, Michael Davidson, Nick Pate, this is where their ball truly excels. At this part of the lane, a little left, a little right, everything for them just really matched up, and this is where they're going to really excel.
Nick's sister Lauren, of course, a pro bowler, winner on the women's tour this past year, Team USA member, head coach at Maryville University, and married to Matt Russo.
Look out. Whoa, now that got way wide really late.
Yeah, but that's what the cheetah oil pattern gives you. It gives you that extra shot from a little further right. When you think it's going in, it has the opportunity. Now, if he tries to get it there earlier, that high volume, it'll go straight into the gutter.
Wow.
But down lane like that, no problem. Again, I think at some point he'll be happy with 9 spare, but that's a shot right there where it could have struck, could have gone in the gutter. Take the 9 spare and move on.
All right, so now the string's over for Nate. Or for Nick, rather. Does Graham make the change?
Yeah, I mean, look, he hasn't, or
Nope.
unless it's a different urethane.
But he's staying with urethane.
I mean, he must be thinking Nick won't bowl 279 because I'm not too confident that Graham can shoot 270 without a change. So unless there is a change that we aren't aware of, he's going to have to bowl just like that, and the ball has to go through the pins like that every single frame.
Is it just a matter of trust, too, where maybe he just trusts urethane still more before making the move? He thinks he can have a better shot with this ball?
Well, I think it's probably the only reason why he's staying with it.
Yeah, and
That's
you can also be in a position where Graham might have realized his moves through the week, and moving to reactive too soon in his head is actually going to give him no shot at all. At least with this one, maybe it's not ready for him to move to reactive, and he's thinking, I just got to make this work.
Lesser of two evils type of thing, where, hey, but still going to go with it, and he staying with it, staying disciplined, staying with urethane, has Grand Fach very much in this. But Nick Pate, he has his eyes on a first PBA Tour title of his career and becoming exempt for 2025. Pate and Fach in a duel in Delaware. Welcome back to the PBA Delaware Classic, where Nick Pate enters the 6th frame with a 9-pin lead on Graham Fach. The winner of this showdown meets our top seed, Jakob Butturff. First event of our 2025 season. John Fantz, Jason Belmonte, Randy Peterson. At where we stand right now, Belmo, what do you think the remainder of this matchup will come down to?
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to whether or not Graham's urethane ball can keep up with Nick's pocket percentage carry. I think as long as Nick bowls shots like that, Graham's going to have to get a lot of help down the last few frames. Look, for me as well with Nick, I mean, he looks very comfortable out there, which is great. That 19 mile an hour, when you're creating angle like that on a shorter oil pattern, your speed consistency is crucial. You know, it's 35 feet of oil, and even though there's a bit of room left and right, the speed factor, if it's a little too slow, he can see it just absolutely change direction too early, so he's got to get that speed control for the whole game.
Hello, Pate. And gets the crowd fired up. He is loving life right now, as he should.
Next 2 shots for Graham Fach, very telling.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the match. I think if Graham doesn't look great on these next 2 frames, I think it's over.
And see what he's done the last couple of shots. He's trying to get around the side of the ball a little bit more to create some better shape down lane with that urethane ball.
Fach with a strike. And a critical one for Graham.
I mean, that's about as great as you can do it under the pressure that he's under, knowing that he doesn't have the greatest carry percentage right now to change his hand position, to get it rolling through the pins a little better. Those last 3 frames, I'm telling you right now, they are absolutely perfect. For me, it's all about the one that isn't quite as perfect. Does it still strike?
Right.
Pate has struck on all but 1 frame. Fach struck on all but 2. It's been tremendous bowling.
Looked like a bit of a miss at the bottom.
Yeah, definitely didn't have the same shape, did it? Even, you know, for the front and the back part of the lane. And I think that's where Nick is going to have a different miss room. I think Nick, if he's not quite as perfect, is going to have a better chance at still striking than Graham is right now.
And Fach converts His wife, Jen, looking on at her husband, who says his best is ahead of him. Meanwhile, in a sense, Randy Peterson, Nick Pate called this.
Yeah, he did, and he basically talked to me in Portland, Maine during the league series and said, Randy, watch out. Next year is going to be my year. And here we are. First tournament in 2025. Nick Pate.
Great shape. Then he sped up his rotations. And that one, well, away from the ideal to the left.
Yeah, I think a little grabby at the bottom. It just looked like it got off his hand. Looks like he hit it just that little bit harder, and it wanted to break off the end of the pattern a little more aggressively. But again, if that's going to be all that happens on a shot like that, 4-pin spare, okay, again, it makes you feel good as a player knowing, okay, I overhit that, I didn't throw it perfect.
Right.
I could have tripped a 4-pin.
Right.
I could have still struck.
I didn't get 5.
Exactly.
So for Pate, all but 2 frames that he has struck in. He had a 9 spare in the 5th on the left. So he has spared once on each side.
Yeah, and this is the shot to force. Well, this won't make it so he can't lose. Any miss here, Graham can strike out and win.
Pate comes through.
And Jason, when you're bowling on a pattern this short and you're covering this many boards as Nick is doing, and you're still able to bounce the 10 out like that, that's a pretty good sign.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was a great shot. He didn't overhit it, really trusted it, rolled the ball to his break point. And, yeah, all week, that's the hit the guys at the very top were getting, that slap of the 10-pin.
For his first TV appearance in half a decade. Fach with a strike. Take a look at that. From the ideal to where it was. That's tremendous from Graham Fach.
Yeah, and a very similar pin action there with the 4 into the 7.
Yeah.
So here he comes to the lane where, you know, we saw a 3-pin, didn't quite execute, didn't quite get the ball to roll up. I guess there's really one of 3 things are going to happen. He's going to roll it perfect, he's going to get it there sooner and overhook, or it's not going to roll up.
If Fach strikes out, Pate will need a double and 1. And 2, rather. Here we go.
In the clutch, Randy. You saw it in the league.
There's 1 for Graham Fach. Oh, the pressure. But he told us I'm a lot more composed. He said, I've been working towards this moment.
This is beautiful right here, the way he shapes this shot.
Again, winner gets Jakob Butturff for the title, so we'll be all lefty.
All the talk early in this game was about when he was going to change balls. He never did. He stayed with it. He was, you know, convinced this was the right move. He maybe changed that release just enough to get that ball to shape better down lane, and here we are.
It's for real.
Come down to the 10th frame. That's all you can do is put pressure on your opponent and make Nick Pate show up in the 10th.
Yeah, listen, after 3 frames, watching the way the ball was going through the pins, to get to 249, that's a lot of good bowling shots right there.
As he asks for a re-rack. You've been in this situation where you really need to strike out in that 10th. What's that like when you do step up there and you say, I need those 3 shots right now?
Yeah, you try not to get too worried about the score line at that point. You know you still need to throw the ball. You still have to make a great shot. And so I think a lot of the guys, including myself, will rely on our process. 9 right now is good. Strike is great, but definitely needs 9.
Graham Fach. That is great. Fach. Cold-blooded.
Just a great finish by Graham Fach.
The clean wipe presented by Dude Wipes.
And this one just wipes the pin deck all 10 in the pit for Graham Fach to finish nicely. Last 4 for him, 249. Pate must strike on the next 2 balls.
Graham Fach is moving on.
Never got it to the right, did he, Randy?
Nope. Yeah, the numbers came down quick, but that was definitely inside at the break point. Never pushed far enough to the right. It was high all the way.
Listen, and that's when you've got to put your hand up and say, that shot was caused because of Graham's finish.
Yep.
The lane hadn't changed, I didn't think. Nothing had changed on Nick's side of the lane, but that pressure he put on Nick was his undoing.
Absolutely.
How's an all-lefty final sound?
Who do you like? Graham's got all the momentum. He knows exactly what the pair's giving it to him. Just saying.
It's going to be a tie. A roll-off.
A tie and a roll-off. Jason, thanks for being here. Best of luck next week in the Open.
Butturff, Fach, the final ahead. And then there were 2 in the 2025 PBA Delaware Classic to start our season on Fox Sports. From Nick County Lanes Entertainment, it's Graham Fach taking on our #1 seed, Jakob Butturff, who is back on the map and trying to get his 9th title. Graham Fach looking for his 2nd. Randy Peterson, what do you see?
Well, first of all, great news, folks. Jason Belmonte did not leave. Jason, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to chase you out here. I thought the private jet was warmed up and waiting for you. But you know what's really nice is to see Jakob back in action again after a dismal 2024.
Yeah, and I think, you know, when we watch Jakob bowl, this is the Jakob that we remember watching bowl when he was at his best. Super happy, you know, really competitive, and now we're starting to see that again, which is not usually a good thing for the rest of us.
Last time he won April 18th, 2023 PBA Scorpion Championship in Wauwatosa. He defeated E.J. Tackett 225 to 217. That was his 8th career PBA title, his first win in nearly 4 years. 2019 PBA Lubbock Sports Shootout. He says that he's fought through a lot of things over the offseason. He's worked on just refocusing on everything, and now is ready for a big response year. But the question, will Graham Fach be the one to rise up and get his first win in almost a decade? It's a really interesting final, and it's a pair of lefties. I'm going to ask these guys what they make of how these two approach this cheetah. Who will start 2025 fastest? We find out next. This wild crowd in Delaware is ready for us to crown our first champion of the 2025 PBA Tour season. Graham Fach for the win. It would be the 2nd of his career. And for Jakob Butturff, after not making a single telecast in the regular season last year, he's back on the map. Randy Peterson, 8-time champion, and he feels like this is the turnaround season for him.
Yeah, but you know, all the experience in terms of winning is on the left side of the screen, but I think the advantage is still Graham Fach heading into this title match. It's so difficult to sit for that long and win a one-game match, especially when your opponent is locked in. He knows what the lanes are giving him, and he's got his nerves and his feet underneath him.
On the left to start. Fach with a strike.
Oh!
That's a nasty start right there. That's where, as an opponent, you're thinking, oh, is it 7-pin? That's a spare the first frame, and then that messenger comes across just to smash it.
This was a little violent.
It is so great to see Jakob Butturff back on our TV screen, and so unique in his approach. That extreme flexibility, being double jointed with that hypermobility. What makes Jakob so special, so unique?
Yeah, well, like you just said, that double jointedness in his wrist is allowing him to create this one-of-a-kind approach. And that allows him, especially with urethane, to create more hook than most people get out of urethane.
Black Pearl Urethane is his ball of choice. Rumor has he has 5 of them down there. And that's what you look, Jason. When I do telecast involving urethane bowling balls, any type of a flat corner pin, for me, is not a very good sign.
No, but look, we did see Graham have a little shaky, carry at the beginning of the second game, was able to make an adjustment and get the ball to go through the pins. So not knowing if that was Jakob, maybe he just didn't hit it the right way, maybe it's the lane. But again, you're right. That shot we're looking for, something has to change.
All right, and I'll give you that. I'll give you one. What happens? He gets back to left lane, and he does the exact same thing. Another flat 7.
And then he better do something very different.
Well, that was just it in our last matchup in which Fach beats Pate. We were wondering, would he make the change? Would he make the change?
But he did change his ball roll.
He did.
He told the tour reps who passed the message back to us that he had changed his ball roll significantly enough to change the reaction. Jakob may have to do the same thing if needed.
Good ball indeed.
Yeah, I mean, look, right now, you and I and everyone at home is looking at that ball motion going, carry doesn't really look to be an issue for Graham right now. So that change has been absolutely perfect. However, will it last just 8 more frames for
Exactly.
it? And if it doesn't, what does he do next?
Right.
14th on the points list last year, 7 top 20s, 2 top 10s. He was in the mix. We had him in the playoffs out in Arlington. But has not won a title since 2016. That was just his second.
That was filthy. That's a bar fight in Delaware.
My goodness.
Oh, give me another glass of liquor.
If I was his opponent, I'd need a dude wipe after that. Watch this. Oh, my God, that's vicious.
Oh, my. That's a bloody finger. Butturff.
I mean, there's nothing you can do. That's a great shot through the pins. I mean, it did everything it was supposed to do, except hit that 10 pin just a little harder.
Jakob telling us earlier this week that he's got such a great circle, a better circle now, a better mentality. And this week he is playing for Gary Mage, who was his first regional director. Gary passed away this past Monday, January the 20th, at age 78. 2022 PBA Hall of Fame inductee for his meritorious service. He's given so much to this wonderful game. He bowled on the PBA Tour primarily during the 60s and 70s, 1972 Seattle Open champ, and Gary's survived by his wife Tony, his loving family. Jakob reflecting on him earlier this week. Our thoughts are with the Mage family.
Yeah, Gary, just an amazing man, and he was best friends with Earl Anthony, and nobody ran more regionals than Gary Mage. Here's the idea of trying to convert the 2, 4, 6, 7, 10, slide that 2 pin over into the 6-10, the ball will take care of the rest.
Yeah, I think you'll find there was a ball change for Jakob. That ball had considerable more surface. Wow. Than the first couple of frames. And I think he registered that, like we had said, that flat 7. I think it kind of spooked him a little bit, and he said, I need a ball that's going to hook a little more. Went to one with a bit more surface, overhooked, and now he's put himself in a very big hole very early. Probably deserved the spare on that one. That's about as close as you can get from sparing. But now he needs help, not just from his own ball reaction. He needs Graham to lose his.
And Graham Fach has been nothing but great this afternoon. Unflappable.
Getting back to Jakob, 1 flat 7.
Sometimes.
And then he makes that ball change.
Sometimes it's an instinct. You feel it. You feel, I use this ball a lot in my career. I know when I start to see telltale signs that I'm not going to get a 3, 4, 5 bagger, I'm not going to wait. In this case, Jakob felt it.
We have to bring this up. there's a desperation level for Fach this year. Because of his one win coming in 2016, the 7 here, you get a 10-year exemption from that win back in 2016, the Players' Championship. 10-year exemption. Well, he said, I look at the clock, I look at the calendar, next year's 2026. I need a win at some point in the next year to avoid going back to PTQs.
This could be the one.
Well, I think the other part of his message was he's one injury away from that possibly happening.
Right. What a feeling this could be for him. And now for Butturff, he has his work cut out for him.
Well, he's had no breaks go his way thus far. That solid 10 the last time on this lane, and then the big split. His last shot up, and that's high. Actually, Brooklyn. And look at these numbers. That's a big miss, Jason Belmonte.
Yeah, look, I can sympathize with Jakob here when you don't have that early string, when the ball isn't doing its thing, and then you have an early open. There is a part of you where your instinct is, I got to strike out. And in this particular case, he just overhit it, missed it a little left, knowing he has to get it to go through the pins. Absolutely perfect. My advice to Jakob in this commercial break, well, not that there's a commercial break, but it's this moment halfway through the game where he has to slow the pace down. He has to be able to just settle in. All he can do now is strike out for 233. That's what he's got to be doing internally, is just make my shots, slow the pace down, let it come to me. That's a great shot, Randy.
Yeah, and Jason, how much of what Jakob is going through right now has been created by the 2 games that Graham Fach has bowled?
Yeah, well, you said it before the match. You said that Graham probably has the advantage because he gets a feel for what the lanes are doing for him. And I think anytime, whether you're right-handed or left-handed, especially when there's urethane on the lane, getting a feel for the pair is a huge advantage in coming out onto it and getting a few practice shots.
Graham Fach again. Fabulous. Look at that shot.
Yeah, that's
as good as it gets.
Yep. We'll take a look at some of the last couple of shots that Graham Fach's thrown and some of his great pin action. Here's a messenger for you right here. Look at that. I remember when I used to throw messengers like that, Jason. Said me never. Another messenger right here. Yep. It's a great sign when you're a professional bowler trying to win and you have the pins working in your favor.
Incredible.
And let's not forget the level of execution that he's putting on display right now.
Look, Graham, when it's these one game, one shot type moments, he did it in the match play this week, averaging, I think it was over 250 something in match play. Those are the cutthroat games, the one game playoffs that he's excelled at in the last few years. He's putting it on again today, 240, possibly 270. Those are going to win you a lot of games, especially when your opponent isn't getting the breaks.
Yeah.
Well, you look at what he did early on when he beat B.J. Moore. He had a 278 to start, then a 257 and a 248. So he really had control, and that was, to your point, right around his average. Upper 240s, right to the 250s throughout match play. But he was the 18th seed through qualifying. He had to bowl in the round of 24.
Yeah, I think Graham did appreciate the fresh more than he did the later games, where I think Jakob was kind of the other way around. You know, I think Jakob needed a game or two at times to settle in. And then he would find it, and then he would do what Jakob does, is throw a lot of strikes. But in this case, if it was a 2-game match right now, I think the scores might be reversed. but it's not.
And no question for Butturff. There's a lot to be encouraged by overall just to get to this point. The way last year went, of course, you're unhappy that you couldn't win, but the flip side of it is for him, this is a really strong start to his 2025.
Yeah, I mean, look, as an athlete sitting next to you, that's usually the last thing that we think.
I know.
Usually the pain of the loss will sting for a while. You know, obviously, look, coming second, and I say that the match is over because
it is.
Yeah,
good call.
and I know Jakob will get told, made a great start to the season. You're bowling fantastic. You're going to feel really good, but I know the pain. It's these opportunities that you get. It's so difficult to make television. It's so difficult to make the championship match.
Yeah.
And then to come out of the gate where, you know, the 7-pin, the 10-pin, the split, you want to do it all over again, and that's the feeling that you know you can't change the past, and it haunts you for a little bit.
And it's over in a heartbeat.
You can lock it up right here. Fach starts 2025 fast. Graham is great again and on top in the PBA for the first time in 9 years. The moment of the match is brought to you by Pilgrims. Chicken can be boring, but Pilgrims is turning chicken nuggets upside down. I love it. You love it. Put it in a nugget and open up that trophy case, Graham Fach, and dust it off because you're a champ individually for the first time in close to a decade, Randy Peterson.
Well, I'll tell you, you feel for Jakob. It's great to see him back and performing at a high level again. But for those of you that don't know that man right there, he is a gentleman. This is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet, and just a great guy. And to see where he was just a couple of years ago and where he is now and winning again after a decade is truly a special moment.
Yeah, and let's not take away the fact it seemed easy because the scoring pace for him was high. But there were moments there in the times that he bowled where it could have been very different if not executed at an incredibly high rate, making those changes with his hand or his speed, whatever he was doing internally to make those changes. Not very many people were going to beat him today.
No, just fantastic. And what you have to love is the way that he spoke to us earlier. And for Butturff, he still has much to look forward to this year. This is a nice start to it to make it show. He didn't make a telecast last year in the regular season. Gets a nice applause. But what you love about this, Randy, is the way that Fach spoke with humility. He said, look, I've gone through some tough days. I've had to reinvest in everything. That reinvestment, you hope it pays off, and it has today.
You know, I agree. I mean, he was averaging 255 coming into this game. He's, you know, really dedicated himself, not just from the physical end, but the mental part of the game, becoming a student, just trying to do whatever he could do to take his game to that next level. And I think some of the more humbling statements was how he said he was an imposter and you know, he had no idea what he was doing when he won 10 years ago. And to see where he was and where he is today, it's a special moment.
Yeah, a Graham Fach who knows he belongs, who doesn't feel like an imposter, that confidence, that's a scary Graham Fach on the PBA Tour.
Imposter, forget about it.
Think about last year, 38th, or excuse me, 2 years ago, 38th on the point list. Last year, 14th in a season where it was fairly tough for the lefties early on.
Fach is a champion again.
Oh, this feels so good right now. I cannot thank you enough.
How sweet this is for Graham.
All my friends and family back home.
Posting greatness in Delaware to start 2025 on the PBA Tour.
Yeah, well done, Graham. Absolutely. Almost perfect performance there in the last game. A fantastic performance in the game before. He's he deserves this win.
Jason Belmonte, a pleasure to be with you.
Thanks, Jay.
Lads, appreciate it. Looking forward to bowling next week at the US Open.
Yeah,
A reminder that our 2025 PBA bowling coverage continues next week, and our first major of the season, the US Open, presented by Go Bowling from Royal Pin Woodland in Indianapolis. Who will win that green jacket? Coverage begins Saturday on FS1, Sunday on Fox, both days at 4 p.m. Eastern. Rob Stone and Randy Peterson, Kimberly Presser, they'll have you covered. Coming up next, live coverage from Lexington, Kentucky of the American Rodeo, the American Contender Regional East Finals. For Randy Peterson, Kimberly Pressler, and our entire crew, I'm John Fanta. You've been watching the PBA on FS1, and you've been watching Graham Fach win his first title in close to a decade.
Wow.